Cold here. Good morning. Subcommittee on Energy and Environment will come to order. Pursuant to notice, the Subcommittee on Energy and Environment meets to consider the following measures: H.R. 3957, the Water Use Efficiency and Conservation Research Act, and H.R. 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act of 2007. We will now proceed with the markup, beginning with the opening statements, and I'll begin. Today, the subcommittee will consider two bills aimed at increasing water supply through research and technology innovation. Water utilities across the country withdraw roughly 40 billion gallons of water per day for domestic consumption, industrial processing, energy production, and fire protection. As population and energy use continues to grow, so will the demand for water. We need to find ways to preserve, reuse, and augment our water supplies. First, we'll take up H.R. 3957, the Water Use Efficiency and Conservation Research Act, introduced by Representative Jim Matheson. H.R. 3957 establishes a research and development program within the Environmental Protection Agency's Office of Research and Development to promote water use efficiency and conservation. Through this program, EPA will be able to develop and encourage the adoption of technologies and processes that will achieve greater water use efficiency, thus helping to address the water supply shortages. The program will help spur innovation in the collection, treatment, and reuse of rainwater and gray water, the wastewater from sinks, baths, and kitchen appliances. Next, we will consider H.R. 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act, introduced by my colleague from Texas and our ranking member, Mr. Hall. This bill creates a research, development, and demonstration program to promote the beneficial reuse of water produced in connection with oil and gas extraction. In the United States, up to 2.3 billion gallons per day of produced water is generated. And unfortunately, this water is not of sufficient quality to be used to meet many of our needs for water. This legislation will produce innovative treatment technologies that will enable the reuse of this water in an environmentally responsible way. These two bills are important steps in ensuring adequate water supply across the United States. I ask my colleagues to support passage of both pieces of legislation by our subcommittee this morning. And I now recognize Mr. English to present his opening remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for holding this markup. I particularly appreciate Ranking Member Hall and Mr. Matheson's work to introduce the bills we will address today. H.R. 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act, and H.R. 3957, the Water Use Efficiency and Conservation Research Act, both highlight the need to think more conservatively about invaluable water resources. We don't have to look far to realize the devastating effects of water shortages can have in our lives. Fires threaten and destroy California, droughts debilitate crops in South Carolina and a number of other southeastern states, and global citizens have to travel farther and farther to have access to fresh water. By supporting research, development, and demonstration projects in water use efficiency, conservation, and the challenges raised by produced water, we can help improve our national and global response to water shortages. Mr. Chairman, when we held a subcommittee hearing on H.R. 3957 in October, the witnesses testified that there had been a significant amount of investment from the private sector in water technologies. Since EPA was not invited as a witness to that hearing, I asked EPA for comments on the work they were already doing in this area. I'm sad to say that they have not yet replied to my request and would ask the EPA to submit their suggestions before the full committee markup. Mr. Chairman and Mr. Matheson, I hope we can work together to ensure that we do not jeopardize or duplicate the work already being done at EPA and in the private sector. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I look forward to working with you to advance the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. English. Without further objection, I hit that a little bit too fast. Members may place additional opening marks in the record at this point. Now, that point. We will now consider H.R. 3957, the Water Use Efficiency and Conservation Research Act. I mentioned the goals of the legislation in my opening, and I'll just again express my support for the gentleman from Utah's bill, and I now recognize Mr. English to present any remarks on the bill.
Chairman, I have no further remarks.
Does anyone wish to be recognized on this bill? Baird.
I would just commend the authors. You know, as we look at the situation in the world today, water is increasingly scarce, as was noted, and I commend the authors of both pieces of legislation today for recognizing that. I also appreciate, particularly Mr. Matheson's bill, language dealing with the social and behavioral aspects of water conservation and reuse.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to be recognized? I ask unanimous consent then that this bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that members proceed with the amendments in the order of the roster. Without objection, so ordered. Are there any amendments? Hearing none, the vote is on the bill. H.R. 3957, the Water Use Efficiency and Conservation Research Act. All those in favor will say aye. 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 Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I recognize Mr. Beard to offer a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee.
The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it, and the bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Subcommittee members may submit additional or minority views on the measure. We will now consider H.R. 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act of 2007. I yield to the ranking member of the full committee 5 minutes to describe this bill. Mr. Hall.
Mr. Chairman, I thank you for marking up 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act of 2007. The United States has an enormous reserve of energy from oil and natural gas within our borders, both on land and in our offshore development areas. However, for every barrel of oil produced, extraction of these vital domestic resources produces 10 barrels of saline, brackish, and generally unusable water. In fact, today we generate over 5 billion gallons of produced water every day. This water is, to a large extent, currently unusable and environmentally hazardous. To dispose of produced water, in many circumstances, producers have to re-inject it into geologic formations, a great expense to small producers throughout the country, and at a time when usable water supplies are more vital than ever to support our growing economy. Safe and sustainable uses of produced water need to be researched and pursued for human, agricultural, and industrial uses. This legislation, Mr. Chairman, addresses environmental concerns, water use issues, and energy production benefits. I supported the Udall amendment that passed the House last year. More recently, it was included as part of Senate 2739, the quote, Consolidated Natural Resources Act of 2008, unquote, that passed the House on April the 29th. My bill would build on the quote, More Water and More Energy Act, unquote, and provide additional federal funds to engage in research and development efforts to speed the utilization of produced water for agricultural and industrial purposes. Additionally, my bill does not constrain research projects to a certain geographic region of the country. I actually believe that both of our bills would add a lot of needed funding and a lot of needed attention to this issue. I thank you, and I yield back my time.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. I would just like to reiterate my support for the gentleman's bill, and I look forward to working with him as we move forward. Does anyone else wish to be recognized? Anyone else wish to be recognized? I ask unanimous consent that the bill is considered as read and open to amendment at any point, and that members proceed with the amendments in the order of the roster without objection. So ordered. The first amendment on the roster is an amendment in the nature of a substitute offered by Mr. Hall. Mr. Hall, are you ready to proceed with your amendment?
I am, sir. The
clerk will report the amendment.
Amendment in the nature of a substitute to H.R. 2339, offered by Mr. Hall of Texas.
I ask unanimous consent to dispense with the reading. Without objection, so ordered. I recognize Mr. Hall for 5 minutes to explain the amendment.
Mr. Chairman, the Hall substitute amendment makes minor changes to the underlying bill. It deletes the findings, deletes the definition of an existing program, and deletes the specific mention of the National Energy Technology Laboratory in order to allow the Secretary more discretion in administering the program. In addition, a coordination clause was added to ensure efforts in the area of produced water are not duplicated at the Department of Energy or other governmental agency. Technical changes were made adjusting the year and the title of the act, and the funding years were changed from 2008 to 2016, 2008 through 2016 to 2009 through 2013. I thank you for allowing me to explain my amendment and urge my colleagues to support its passage without questions.
You're very welcome. Is there any further discussion on the amendment? Any further discussion on the amendment? Are there any amendments to Mr. Hall's amendment in the nature of a substitute? If no, the vote occurs on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Are there any other amendments? Hearing none, the vote is on the bill, H.R. 2339, the Produced Water Utilization Act of 2007 as amended. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. I recognize Mr. English to offer a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the subcommittee favorably report H.R. 2339 as amended to the full committee. Furthermore, I move that the staff be instructed to prepare the subcommittee legislative report and make necessary technical and conforming changes to the bill as amended in accordance with the recommendations of the subcommittee.
The question is on the motion to report the bill favorably. Those in favor of the motion will signify by saying aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes have it. The bill is favorably reported. Without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. Subcommittee members may submit additional or minority views on the measure. I want to thank the members for their attendance. This concludes our subcommittee markup. Mr. Hall can go make his speech, and the rest of us can have a good day. We are adjourned. All right. Well, tell a joke while you're at it.